Prime Minister, Mark, you're very welcome here at Downing Street. It's fantastic to have this opportunity to have you here so early on in your tenure. And the relationship between our two countries has always been strong. Two sovereign allies, so much in common, shared history, shared values, shared king, and all the work we do in the Commonwealth together.
Here's a rewritten, simplified version of your original article. It's now in clear, natural-sounding English with improved grammar and sentence structure, and expanded to approximately 1,500 words. Is the UK risking a trade war with the US by supporting Canada? Canada has been facing tough times because of former U.S. President Donald Trump's economic policies. Day by day, Trump's heavy tariffs are hitting Canada's economy hard. That's one major reason Canadians chose a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, hoping he could take a stronger stance and push back against Trump's aggressive trade actions. While all this is happening, the UK, led by Prime Minister Keir Starmer, has managed to avoid similar treatment. So far, Trump hasn't targeted Britain with tariffs the same way he has gone after Canada. In fact, Starmer even managed to get Britain a temporary break from Trump's tariffs, buying the UK some breathing room. But now, that balance is at risk. Here's the twist. Starmer recently welcomed Mark Carney, Canada's new Prime Minister, to the UK. Carney has made it clear that he's not interested in playing nice with Trump. In fact, instead of going to Washington to try and ease tensions with the U.S., Carney went to Europe. He's now in Britain, working to build a coalition of countries that will stand up to Trump's trade tactics. That puts Keir Starmer in a very difficult spot. On one hand, Britain and Canada have a deep and long-standing relationship. They're both part of the Commonwealth, share history, language, and even the same monarch. On the other hand, Trump sees the world in black and white. Either you're with him or you're against him. So, if Starmer is seen supporting Carney, Trump might interpret that as the UK siding with one of his biggest critics. This situation could explode into a full-blown diplomatic disaster. Let's break down what's going on and why it matters. Trump's war on Canada. When Trump was in office, he quickly turned on Canada. Despite being one of America's closest allies for decades, Canada found itself slapped with harsh tariffs, 25% on steel and aluminum, with threats to raise them even higher. These trade barriers have seriously hurt Canada's economy, disrupting exports and pushing businesses toward crisis. Some experts say this could even lead to a major recession in Canada. But Trump's actions haven't been just about economics. He often mocked Canada and its leadership. He once called former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau Governor Trudeau, implying that Canada wasn't a real independent country. He's even joked about turning Canada into the 51 state of America. These comments made it clear that Trump doesn't see Canada as an equal partner, but as a country that should follow America's lead, no questions asked. Mark Carney, the new Canadian leader, has made it very clear that those days are over. He's not interested in bowing to pressure from Washington. His first overseas visits were to Paris and London, not to the U.
Because they've really taken advantage of us. And, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars, they don't take our farm products, they take almost nothing. And we take everything from them, millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line.
A strong message that Canada is looking for new friends and alliances. Starmer's dangerous bet. Carney's arrival in London was not just a friendly visit. He was greeted at Buckingham Palace by King Charles and then met with Prime Minister Starmer at 10 Downing Street. This warm welcome sends a clear message. The UK is standing with Canada, even if it upsets Washington. But this puts Britain in a very tricky position. Trump's foreign policy has never been about careful diplomacy. Instead, he treats every relationship like a business deal. If a country doesn't fully support him, he punishes it. There's no middle ground in Trump's world. That's why this moment matters so much. By meeting with Carney and showing open support, Starmer is taking a huge risk. Trump could see this as a betrayal and respond harshly. It's important to understand that Carney isn't just a visiting leader. He's positioning himself as the face of a group of countries that want to push back against Trump's heavy-handed trade policies. By shaking hands with Carney and talking about shared values and history, Starmer is signaling that Britain agrees with Carney's approach. That could end up being a very costly move. Britain's economic vulnerability. So far, Britain has managed to stay out of Trump's trade war. The UK was granted an exemption from American tariffs, which has helped its economy stay afloat after Brexit. Losing that deal could seriously damage key British industries, especially those that rely on exports to the US. But now that Starmer is cozying up to Carney, that exemption may be at risk. Trump doesn't forget or forgive easily. If he sees Britain supporting one of his biggest critics, he could strike back quickly. Let's remember how Trump works. He sees everything through the lens of loyalty. During his presidency, he made it clear that countries had to show full support or they would be punished. That's exactly what happened to Canada. Trump believed Trudeau wasn't being loyal, so he imposed tariffs that deeply hurt the Canadian economy. Now, it looks like Starmer is repeating Trudeau's mistake. Starmer's words may backfire. While hosting Carney, Starmer said something that caught everyone's attention. Two sovereign allies with so much in common shared history, shared values, shared king. To most people, that might sound like a friendly, diplomatic statement. But to Trump, it could be seen as a challenge, a sign that the UK is openly siding with Canada against you. Pressure. Carney has made no secret of his position. He has strongly rejected the idea that Canada should become more dependent on the US. In fact, he said flat out that Canada will never be a part of the United States in any way, shape, or form. That kind of language directly opposes Trump's vision for you. Global dominance. By standing next to Carney and echoing those values, Starmer is essentially placing Britain on the same side. What could happen next? So far, Trump hasn't responded directly to Starmer's actions, but it's only a matter of time. If history is any guide, Trump doesn't take perceived betrayal lightly. If he decides that Britain has crossed the line, several things could happen. 1. This would hit industries like automotive, steel, and agriculture sectors that are already facing pressure from Brexit and inflation. 2. Strained diplomatic ties. The U.S. could start treating Britain as an unreliable partner. This would go beyond trade and could affect defense cooperation, intelligence sharing, and even international treaties. 3. This would put Starmer in a very difficult position, either abandon a close Commonwealth ally or put Britain's economy at risk. The UK has less flexibility than Canada. Canada still has options. It has trade agreements with other countries, including those in Europe and Asia. Even if relations with the U.S. stay cold, Canada can look elsewhere for economic support. Britain, on the other hand, is in a much tougher spot. Since leaving the European Union, it's been trying to rebuild trade relationships around the world. The U.S. is one of its most important partners. If Trump cuts Britain off, the UK could face serious trouble, and right now, there's no backup plan.
Economically, there are great ties between our two countries, so it's very, very good to be able to welcome you here as an ally, a friend, and two countries with a very, very strong camaraderie, support for each other, and history and future.
Future, absolutely. Well, thank you, Keir. Merci beaucoup pour cet accueil. We have a remarkable history, as you said, between our countries, and it is remarkable because it's built on shared values. And we're at a point in history where the world is being...
That's why Starmer's decision is being criticized. Instead of protecting the UK's fragile economic situation, he may have just dragged the country into a fight it didn't need to join. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, Keir Starmer is taking a big gamble. He's hoping that he can support Canada without angering the United States, but with Trump, that kind of balance is almost impossible. If Trump decides to retaliate, Britain could become the next victim in this growing trade war. And if that happens, it won't be Canada that pays the highest price, it will be the UK. The big question now is, should Britain stand by Canada and risk Trump's wrath, or should it step back and try to keep Trump happy to protect its economy? What do you think? Should Starmer play it safe, or is it time for the UK to take a stand, even if it means facing Trump's anger? Would you like a summarized version of this for social media or a video script adaptation?